So you're thinking of moving to Southcentral Alaska. Today we're going to go over the cost of what it would take to move you and all your items up from the lower 48 to Alaska, to include household goods, shipping your vehicle, plus a tip in there to save you time and hassle, and if you decide to drive from the lower 48 up through Canada. Now, if this is your first time to the channel and you want to learn everything there is to know about living in Southcentral Alaska, please hit the subscribe button or tap the bell to get notifications so that you can be the first to learn of the current market. And with that, let's get to the costs. So first on our list is moving your household goods. Now in this, highly recommend you talk to a couple different moving companies because they have different services at different levels. Now in general, if you're looking at a full service, 1 to 2 bedroom house is anywhere from $2,000 to about $4,000. Looking at a 2 to 3 bedroom, you're looking at $4,000 to about $9,000. And then looking 4 or 5 bedrooms plus, you're looking at $9,000 plus, depending on how much you have. Because the factors that they go into it is a lot of the seasonality. It's going to cost more in the summer when they get busy. The distance, obviously, that costs fuel for them to truck it as well. And then looking at how much weight and volume that you have. Now, as a self-proclaimed pack rat, I totally understand this, but the less you pack, the less you have to pay. So this is a good chance to spring clean all the things that you're not using. Plus, there are different ways that you can reduce the costs. Depending on the moving company that you use, maybe you're the one that actually wraps everything and puts it in the boxes instead of having them do it. So there's different ways that you can have cost saving. So just talk to your different moving companies and see what they offer. So next we're going to talk about is if you want to ship your vehicle up to Alaska. Now, coming out of the ports in Washington, it costs right now about $2,000. And you're thinking, oh, $2,000, I can handle that. You also have to factor in, lessons learned, the cost of shipping it from where you are to the port. Now, looking at across country from East Coast to West Coast, you're looking at about another additional $1,000. Now, here's the tip that not many people know until they have to do this, is if you're driving your car to the port yourself and dropping it off there, you need to have your tank between 1/8 and 1/4 full. Now, this is to reduce the weight for the carrier, and it is definitely something you need to know so you don't fill up your tank right before you return it like you do with a rental company. Totally different thing. In this one, you want 1/8 to 1/4 full of tank, and it will save you time and hassle of having to drive around until you get it down to that mark. And the last cost we're going to cover in this particular video is driving up from the lower 48 up through Canada to Alaska. Now, I would recommend that we don't use our lovely sports cars on this drive because some of the roads are a little bit bumpy, less well maintained year round, and might not be the smoothest. Now, that being said, some of the cost is definitely fuel, gas. From the lowest point of Florida to Anchorage is little less than 5,000 miles. So you can kind of guesstimate of what you need kind of based on that. You're looking at fuel anywhere, depending on if you're closer or farther, of at least $500, looking at maybe $1,500, $2,000, depending on what the prices are and the time you decide to come up. Those summer months are going to be higher prices than the winter months. But the winter months, you're going to have to deal with snow on the road. So take a pick on that. Now, if you're driving your vehicle, depends on what vehicle you have. Are you planning on staying in the vehicle in a campsite? At that point, you're looking at $20 to $50 a night. Or you're going to need to stay at a motel, hotel, you're looking at $100 to $200 a night. From Florida up to Alaska, it takes about 10 days if you're doing about 8-hour shifts of driving, which in my experience, I found was pretty comfortable, especially even if you're doing it by yourself, taking breaks and whatnot. 8 hours is definitely doable. Also make sure that you are all set as far as the cost of food. Whether you're doing the grocery run in the coolers or you have the cash on hand to hit up the restaurants on the way, just make sure that you're set on where you're going to get your food on, because sometimes there's some longer stretches between towns on the way up through Canada. In addition, make sure that you have taken a look at your insurance policy Most of the time, there's not any issue with getting through Canada with your current policy, but make sure that your insurance company knows, so that if something happens, you don't find yourself stranded. And lastly, if you're planning on bringing your pets through Canada, make sure you take the time to figure out the process of what it would take to safely and legally have them come through and out of the borders of Canada. This is definitely not something that you can just show up and the pet will be fine. There's definitely documentation and vaccines that need to be considered. In recap, we went over the costs of shipping your household goods, shipping your vehicle, and/or driving yourself up through Canada. And remember, whether you're moving in 9 days or 90 days, feel free to give us a call, shoot us a text, send an email, or set up a Zoom call. We'd be happy to talk. And until next time, we hope to see you around town.